Welcome to Raging Bullets, a comics fan podcast, Season 2, Episode 761.
From the great outskirts of Cleveland to wherever you may roam, Sean and Jim thank you for listening to the Raging Bullets podcast show.
Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot, the Duke of the Sultan of Strategery, the Minister of More Gooder. He would like to take a brief moment to remind you that if you are a fugitive and you are feeling hunted and oppressed, your search for comfort and solace is over. The Jim Seguin Fugitive Task Force is now open for business, and the snacks are great. And, of course, he's the elder statesman of the podcast, Seguin.
How's it going?
Jim, on this episode, we're going to be talking about Tap Dance Killer issues 1, 2, and 3. As we continue our exploration of this, we are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Seguin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
The past isn't set in stone. The future is up for grabs. History will never be the same. Just in time for the 50th anniversary of the original Giant Size X-Men, yes, we get a new Giant Size X-Men #1, 36% off, only $3.19. Thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, they have their deals of the week. We have Berserk graphic novel volume 42, $14.99 regularly, 46% off, only $8.09. Dark Knights of Steel all winter hardcover. This book is fantastic. $29.99 regularly, 50% off, only $14.99. DC's Finest Team-Ups Chase Till the End of Time, $39.99 regularly, 55% off, only $17.99. Doom, the Treasury Edition trade paperback, $29.99 regularly, 46% off, only $16.19. And the Phoenix trade paperback volume 1, Orbital Resonance, $17.99 regularly, 46% off, only $9.71. Thank you, DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Mr. Seguin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plot lines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Just a friendly reminder, if you haven't had a chance to read either Apama or Tap Dance Killer to join us for this episode, there is a link in the show notes to Hero Tomorrow Comics. And you can purchase right now either the PDF versions of the comics, or you can buy collected editions of the comics. They're all available right from the Hero Tomorrow Comics website, so make sure to go and check them out and read up to join us for this episode.
He really grows on you, doesn't he?
Our first discussion this episode is going to be of Tap Dance Killer. Ted Sikora, story and lettering. Donny Hadi, it's Widjaja on art. David Bath Ballard on Ted Sikora on colors, and apologies for any name butchery on this one. I'm a big fan of this series, and issue #1, Jim and I were just talking about this beforehand. These are longer issues than we're used to in a traditional monthly comic, and really, really dense content. I really like that because especially when it's newer characters like this, I like to get some meaty story out of them. I like to get to really know what's going on in their world. This certainly fits the bill. So when we last left our friend Nikki, she was put in jail. We're starting out with her escaping jail. And I love that in her life, we're kind of, they haven't really defined, is she a hero? Is she a villain? What is she? I like that about her because I clearly don't feel that she's a hero. But she's like the hero of the story in the sense that we're reading about Tap Dance Killer. But it's hard to call her a straight-up villain. To say that her life is complicated because of what's happened to her would certainly be the case. She's kind of a victim of circumstance. We kick off in the beginning where she scaled the wall of the jail because of the fact that she has these enhancements now to herself. She's able to do the parkour thing and just get on out of there. And we don't know why. All we just know is that she's escaping, which is, I thought, was a great way to start the story. Is we're seeing this first and then popping back to find out the why of what happened with her. The mystery was kind of interesting because knowing what we knew about her from the 2 issues of Apama, it felt that way.
Yeah, and I liked jumping into this and starting right off with the action, and you're going, they show her scaling the wall, guards shooting at her, her doing her little bob and weave over the wall, and then even just, kind of like she keeps her groove personality going. She's like, hey, how you doing, buddy? With the homeless guy. And then they go right into the flashback sequence, just filling in everybody what's going on, explaining, so you don't completely think this is a pure villain. They're showing the corruption. They're showing the fact that, her brain has been augmented and whatnot with the magic potion that she took. So I liked how, again, start over some action, give us some of her personality, give us a nice backstory, and then just keep the story going. Keep the action going. I like how they're pacing this off. This is the issue 1 of this limited series. Yeah, you're going to get crossover from the Apama stuff, but if someone just picked this up, because that is a cool looking cover. Now, you see that cover, that could very easily pull somebody in. With her on the front cover there in the costume, tap dance killer, that right there is a nice draw in. So if you're somebody who has no idea who Nikki is, they're giving you a great explanation, giving you a good understanding of who she is within the first 4 pages.
One of the things with the toast that I noticed in this one is that they were changed forever. They did this, took this potion. So that's an interesting piece. At least the perception is that this is going to be who Nikki's going to be moving forward. So we're dealing with the duality of her and the character that she was playing for that particular play, becoming a very realistic piece. It was interesting to see kind of that backstory in her, and then actually seeing her in her world, because we got to see elements of this through her relationship with Ilya in the Apama book, but now what we're getting to see is, they've kind of moved on from each other because of what happened and the circumstances there, or at least for now. With the world of Apama, who knows where that's going to go. But she is going back to one of her friends. That would be such a tough situation, because think of how many close friends we have in common and things like that. Imagine one of them comes in prison garb, and you're sitting here like, oh, what do I do now? Do I cover for him? Because now you're an accomplice. So I felt so bad for her friend in this store who's helping her out, because you and I are both kind of wired the same way. We've got people who are very, very close to us, and there's so many of them that I would want to do a solid for, because they're like family. You've known them for so long. Most of your life you've known these people, and they're in there, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. But I love this bit where she grabs a top and the skirt from her friend behind the counter. Yep. So her friend is trapped behind the counter. Her strategy's brilliant, though. Instead of having the police come in and see something weird, she goes out and questions the noise that's out there. She takes an aggressive approach to setting the stage for her character, which shows the acting talent that she's got, right? I thought it was, I'm like, this would work. It really would work. And honestly, she covered for her character, or her friend, I should say, who has who doesn't have the skirt on in the back, and her weird behavior by what was going on. She really took charge of the situation. It was a funny bit, but also believable. Like, this would work.
Well, one of the things I also liked was, she, as you said, invites the cops in to take a look. Oh, check it out. Yeah, of course, and completely. And then while he's there, she's flirting with him, completely taking him off his guard, because you got a pretty girl flirting with you. He's going to puff out his chest a little bit more. Don't worry about it, man. We'll keep you safe, kind of stuff, completely throwing him off his guard, not even remotely thinking, hey, this could be the person I am looking for. And I loved that part of it. And it's always funny that, with simply putting on glasses, throwing on different hair, and then your attitude and your personality, you can completely look like somebody else. And in this, you see, she completely, there's no question, no hesitation. These guys aren't even going to remotely think this is the escaped prisoner by the way she's acting, by the way she's presenting herself. It's absolutely brilliant. I love this.
She was asking him to stay. Yeah. Which I thought was a part that really made a lot of, here's the thing, not me, I want you to stay here. Can you make sure and protect me? He's like, no, I got to find out who this person is. Then we jump back to 3 months ago. And this was the perfect way to do this because you got to bring in potential new readers to this. And, you're delivering something, too, for us fans who've been enjoying reading Apama all along. But now we're going back to the fact that prison life wasn't good for her because of the fact that she's got somebody who's put a hit out on her. And we get to see that she's got mad fighting skills as this is going on, but she's not going to last long in that place if this keeps going on. I really like that we get to see her learn a little bit more about her rhythmic powers. So, before it's been the tap dance skills and the dancing skills have led to increased combat. She's now discovering that by the fact that she's doing this tap, she's able to mesmerize people through different patterns of that tap. That part was really, really interesting, what she does with the guard, building the relationship there. I thought it was really, really great because I think it's not just the rhythm of her tap, but the rhythm of her voice that she's able to melodically change to kind of help that out. I really liked how she convinced the guard to unlock the door using the rhythm. So this whole tap rhythm thing winds up being a power set that is more than just related to the feet and the way that she's able to command her whole body. Actually, it really is. She's able to command her entire body using rhythm.
And she's able to break down, the guard, Alice, and understand her movement, her flow. It reminds me of, Cassandra Cain Batgirl, how she can read someone, it's that same kind of thing. And again, it all fits to the dancing, the acrobatic, just the movement, that the rhythmic movement that she's such a master of now. She's able to do that. And again, as you said, with her voice, even she was able to do a little bit of hypnosis kind of suggestion. And I loved that. So again, it is funny because when we did the reread, I completely forgot about this scene. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And later on, when we see her fighting, when we see Nikki fighting, you see the rhythmic, you see the movement, especially later on when she gets more into the groove of who she is and what she's about. You really do see kind of like you think back to, I just referenced Cassandra Cain, but also Dick Grayson with his acrobatic skills and his fighting style. And there have been references to Barbara Gordon, when she was Batgirl, her fighting style based off of her dance background. These characters, these people, they're fluid, their motion based on what they've done their whole life. And I loved seeing this little glimpses of this here, knowing later on we're going to get even more of it.
There's elements of what goes on in Daredevil, too, with what goes on there for the same reasons that you're talking about. And I actually really love those types of characters. So I'm just nodding along and agreeing the whole way. We also get introduced to Drayton Hayes here.
Yeah.
And Drayton is just this boxer who is, trying to make it. He's, in a situation where he doesn't want to throw a fight. He wants to be a champion, and really is driven to this is my last chance. This is my opportunity. And it really is almost a Rocky story for him when he's set up from the beginning to fail.
Yeah.
And he bet on himself to the point where he put all of his savings into betting on himself. That's not going to pay off.
No, that's a problem. But here's a little side note for people who may not realize that Cleveland has such a great, I don't want to say underground, but it has this great boxing, history and this great just boxing market. It's, the independent kind of boxing scene where we have a lot of these gyms, a lot of these guys come out of Cleveland that go on to do some significant stuff, in the boxing and also in MMA as well. There's, again, it's part of it is just the blue collar background of Cleveland. Part of it is just people, with not a lot of option going, oh, I can hurt people. I can throw down, I can fight. I'm good at that. And they run with it. So it was kind of neat. Again, I did cheer with this because I know what kind of boxing we have going on in Cleveland. The Cleveland Armory, has fights every week, pretty much. And there's a lot of these different places around here that they have these boxing setups. They have these, rings where people are going to try to get discovered by the big names and actually move on to something famous.
Yeah, one of the things they did really well with the skeleton of how they created this world is using, and I think it feels more grounded because of it. When you use real cities as your backdrop, but you add a little bit of fantasy to it. You play around with it a little bit. You do wind up with something that is relatable and grounded. And I feel that that really works for this. It's the same. I referenced last episode the Marvel connections with the fact of the way that they handled like New York. But even when you're referencing before like Dick Grayson and Cassandra Cain and Barbara Gordon, you're referencing Gotham. And Gotham in and of itself is kind of a character. I love that we've made Cleveland locations in this a character in this story, and they work really well in this. Enter Carlotta Vitali, who is the mother of the guy who was killed at the end of Opama. We're now seeing a reaction to the fact that she went to jail to keep her kid from going to jail, and she is out for revenge. And I get the revenge story on this, and the motivation of her. She gave up her life so her kid would have opportunity, and now that's been taken away from her. So what did she do all this for? I would not want to be Nikki. I love how cool she is in all this, because she's recognizing that Carlotta's out for her and that the other people won't even talk to her. When she's going through the line and we've got a server who's saying, "This one is yours, Nikki." I love that she dumped it right in the trash, knowing the fact that if she ate that, she would have been poisoned.
Yeah.
It was such a great play leading to the initial fight in her own holding cell, which the fight was beautiful. I really like the fight choreography in this. Just seeing the way that you referenced before Cassandra and Dick Grayson. I think one of the things that's nice about the two of them is for the similarities those two characters have, there are so many key differences when they actually get into combat situations. And I feel like Nikki has that as well when she goes into tap dance killer mode. There's just something different about the fighting style and the way she uses rhythm, the motion. There's a lot of graceful flow and swinging, and it really is, to your point, where the Cassandra link comes in. It's almost dancing with your opponent and paying attention to the lead of your partner in some cases that I just really enjoy seeing in the way that she's choreographed in this. It works really well.
Oh God, yeah. One of the things I did love, again, as you said, you know, just the motion, the poetry in motion, the beauty of chaos that is in combat, all those stuff, they pull it in great. You know, when you have a flat page that can give you fluid motion, is always a bravo to the art team. But also, again, you're talking about how she's breaking down what's going on. You're seeing her equate it to a song. So it's not just that fighting, but the ending bit, when after she takes out all the people, she's got just the boss left over, and she doesn't finish her off because she's just a frail old woman and lazy. "Oh, please don't hit me." That right there was Nikki. If she had been full tap dance killer mode, that lady would have been dead, because that's the only way you stop somebody like this from coming at you, is you kill them. And I loved seeing that Nikki is still there. This whole fight sequence, that was her using the tap dance killer stuff, but that was still Nikki, in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
And I loved seeing the fact that, it's this, is she not kind of thing, where is she this, cold-blooded killer? Is she a person whose just mind is, kind of been, tweaked with because of some crazy voodoo potion? And I love that we get a really clear understanding right here that, no, Nikki's still there. There's still the good person in her.
Well, it's almost like an amalgamation.
Really cool moment.
It's like an amalgamation of the two now, because I don't know that we really have a light switch that shuts off between Nikki and tap dance. It's almost like the personalities are merging. I don't know. I mean, obviously as the storyline goes on and we get to see more experience with the character, it's so interesting to wonder where Nikki stops and tap dance killer begins. How much separation there actually is now between the two of them. And that part's interesting. She does recognize that, like, JoJo's going to be an accomplice from all of this if she doesn't, step away. So she goes to meet her old gang. And I really am glad they were in this. We get to see Sir Terror and Flesher, but also get an idea of they've continued on a recruitment drive.
Yes.
Or almost, not a recruitment drive, almost like they go out and do shopping and make these people. and I love that the first one up there, that fiend that's in there's like this woman that's gone wrong. This was supposed to be somebody who was supposed to be another one of the crazy gang, and the experiment went horribly. I would not let these people do anything to me after seeing that.
No. Yeah. Fletcher, again, I loved how when she first sees him, calls him Klaus, and he's like, oh, no, please call me Fletcher. He's 100% full on the vaudevillain. And I loved that about the creepy guy, and you see him doing with little Lizzie, whatever he's doing with her. I was like, oh man, the creepy Q, I think is what we called him last time. And he just takes it on to another level, this time. And I love seeing him, update Nikki's gear, update her, the weaponry, the cane, and again, he's just always tweaking with it because he's 100% pure. This is pure Fletcher. There is no Klaus left.
Yeah.
We have debate going on about Nikki. There is no good guy left in this. This is pure creepy factor, and I love that.
The fact that he had an upgraded costume ready for her, I really dug that. Mm-hmm. He's kind of a twisted version of Q or something from the Bond movies, and it really played out well in this because the gear looks cool. It's an improvement, and I like that he was talking through how the fabric's a bulletproof composite polymer. I'm sorry, and that the cane is stronger yet lighter. Due to the alloy, and even the gun. Has a special. It's like the finest revolver ever made. Those pieces and those upgrades, I got kind of excited for her to get the new toys, if that makes any sense. And because I just love gadgets and gizmos, and that added a whole cool flavor to it. It is a twisted version of like any good guy team that you're seeing here. I actually love the choice of we're keeping these bad guys and we're just going all in with that. I like that she's not like this immediate good guy character. She's something somewhere in the middle or whatever. I don't know what you call her in this. I really don't know other than saying that you judge the people by the company they keep.
It's a tough one. You can't say hero, you can't say villain, but you can argue villain because of some of the stuff she's done. But on the other hand, you're like, there's moments of compassion. She's a tough one, and I love. She is that gray. She's the neutral right now. She's not evil. She's not good. She's neutral right now.
Yeah. And that part was really, really interesting to me. The making up multiple identities part was really interesting because I still haven't totally wrapped my head around that, other than the fact that it's playing into her acting talent, allowing herself multiple roles to be able to, navigate the world is how I took it. And I thought that was kind of a neat idea. As far as if one of her identities gets compromised, she's got another one to fall back on.
Yep.
But also, it starts to beg the question of who is the real Nikki now? I really am finding her intriguing as a character. The more complex the story gets, I get why Ted jumped to writing this character. I feel like, there's so much story to tell with her, and she's very, very interesting.
One of the things I loved about this sequence. Mm-hmm. It's multiple states, and one of the reasons I love that about multiple states is if you're in Ohio and you present an Ohio driver's license, everyone's going to know, people are going to know what it looks like.
Yeah.
If you present an Indiana driver's license, they're going to have an idea of what it looks like, or New York, they'll have an idea, but they won't know all the little nuances of it.
True.
So you have multiple states depending on where you're at, what you want to do. Because the identification, again, you need it for renting a car, a hotel room, a bank account, just general life. So having these multiple states, having these multiple looks and personalities that go along with it is absolutely brilliant for somebody on the run, because that's what she is. She's an escaped fugitive from justice on the run. So she needs to have this kind of stuff. I love that little attention to detail.
Drayton Hayes' situation tends to go from bad to worse. We get Uzi, the clown, knocking him out. You just know, when I see Fletcher there, like, this is not going to be good with what happens there. And I really, this buildup is really, really good. Nikki's house being burned to shreds and really kind of setting the stage for the fact that the level of retaliation is really her whole life has been taken from her. Similar to what happened to her son. I really like that her opponent is going after her. Carlotta is going after her on that kind of level. It just adds a sense of danger. I think it's one of the areas where we have, like, she is a villain, but we have trouble calling her a villain. Because I really do want to see her take down Carlotta. And I think that part really, really worked in this for me.
Well, there's levels of evil.
Yeah.
You know, there's like, Nikki's a bad person, but she's not like Hitler evil. So, there's a level of evil to her. And I love that, seeing her house get burned down, how this really affected Nikki and how it just destroyed her, because it's her artwork, her costumes, everything that was her was destroyed. And I love how her friends, like, any notion she has of not housing Nikki just got thrown out the window with this. She's like, hey, you're here as long as you need. I got you. I love that part. Again, little attention to detail. This trauma is what brings the friend full on into aiding and abetting an escaped fugitive.
Nikki getting a chance to don the tap dance killer outfit for the first time and really kind of start going after the gangs that are coming after her. That part was really, really great. Seeing her, kind of taking off trying to get more information, trying to talk. I like I only came to talk, and they didn't really give her much of a chance to do that.
Yeah, and I loved again, art choice. You can see the the metal taps on the feet, but that's also not just taps. Those are reinforced metal to make the kick even harder and all that. Again, little tweaks on the costume design were stuff that made kind of like, oh, that's cool, that's neat.
Punchline being introduced right here was really good because Nikki goes back to the base and, they're trying to set her up. Actually, I got to say something about the loyalty, at least, so far. Sir Terror and the team, they're kind of all behind her. Not only are we going to give you money and, give you a new outfit, get you all set up and things like that, but we are giving you quite the partner with Punchline. Just the way he bursts out of the scene. This is an example of how you do world building, right? And it's something that I think's been a trademark of the Apama series, and really the whole Apama verse, the Hero Tomorrow comics verse, has been that organically throughout stories, we get really strong introductions to characters that later branch out into their own storylines. And by the time they've got their own storyline, you know who they are, you know why you want to read about them. It's really, really well. Nobody feels forced. It wasn't like, hey, we've got to stick Punchline in here so that way you want to read about Punchline later. No, Punchline's integral to the story and has his own arc in this thing that I think is really, really sharp. And I like Nikki's reaction at the end, which I thought was great.
And here's the thing with me and clowns. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big fan of clowns at all. There's always, I'll never watch Stephen King's It because of the clown in there and the creepy clown. And there's been a couple different clown stuff. But I got to tell you, I absolutely love this intro, this opening. You see this massive, borderline goofy looking, but there's never in my wildest dreams would I even think of saying that to him, because he is just so powerful, intimidating, and damn scary. I love this opening, this intro of him. Just this initial pop of who he is, a little bit of funniness to it, saying, my name's Punchline, and I'm just a clown to wreck this town. But there's still oh crud, this dude will hurt somebody big time. And at this point in time, we don't even know what augmentation has been done to him. All we know, this is a dangerous son of a gun.
It's funny. I weave in and out of alternative covers, as far as just because over the years it's been, I'll collect like thematic alternative covers. We've talked about them sometimes when they've done the cover bundles on the show that we like jumping at them, especially when they're themed covers. But I'm not always one that I've got to have every alternative cover. I will say when the Hero Tomorrow's comics team puts out these Kickstarters that they do, and they put out the cover bouquets, I always jump on those. I just think it's really, they find like the coolest and most fun covers. I'm looking at the cover for issue 2 where she's trying to get Punchline out of the way so that way she can get a better spot on her own cover. And I thought that was it was a fun, interesting cover.
He periodically does that with his covers. He has fun with the covers.
Yeah.
There'll be different stuff. Like I remember back in the one issue of Apama, it was a picture of her with the gun on Apama. He's like, "Oh, don't worry, this is just for the cover. I'm not actually going to try to kill him yet."
One of the things I think that they do really, really well at Hero Comics is recognizing these Meet the Cast pages. They give people what you need, knowing like, okay, typical comic fan that's going to be reading this is reading a lot of other books. We're world building. We want to build investment here. Let's give people what they need to know about the cast. These are also tweaked every issue, which I think is really cool. I really enjoyed like looking through them and seeing the slight differences, because more information has come about or there's pieces that you need to know in order to be ready to go for this particular issue, especially if it's been a little bit since you read an issue, because sometimes there's some time between releases. And I thought this was very, very smart to put this in. I think it was just it was an interesting approach. They're trying to give readers what they need versus unnecessary. Like everything's necessary. Like everything is part of the experience. And crafted in such a way to be an integral part of it. I've always loved roll call pages in general, but the use of it in this, I think, is really, really smart for this being such a new and fresh world for people. Because Tap Dance Killer might be somebody's first book. Somebody might be, right now enjoying this with us, and they haven't read anything else in there. And I like the accessibility. I think it's smart.
And I loved Fletcher's Meet the Cast.
Yes.
Because he's talking about, the musical character Fletcher brings the dead to life. Klaus hasn't figured that out, but the search has led to some fascinating experiments. He enjoys collecting coins and decorating cadavers.
So we now go to the next page where we're in the councilman's office. And I think it's Councilman of Ward 7. And I'm just sitting here like, oh, I know everything we're talking about here right now, which that part's really fun, where we're seeing what's going on there. Then Tap Dance Killer shows up on the scene with Punchline in tow. And it's been interesting because we've seen so much of Nikki's interactions where she's walking on the scene and it's almost, I don't want to say it's defensive totally because of the fact that, Nikki is so well versed in combat and the way that she fights, but it really is her with the dancing partners. So you get to see her. It's a lot more of a ballet kind of battle with her. Punchline is not that at all. The part where he punches the guy through the ceiling, and that leads to the, Sir Terror's conversation about how things are going to go. I thought that was just such a great intro because it's so different than what we've seen before.
You know what it reminded me of from Pulp Fiction?
Oh, yes.
When he walks in there and he shoots the one guy. Oh, did I interrupt you? Oh, you were finished. Allow me to retort. 100% had that same kind of groove to it.
I will totally admit this. The first time back through when I read this, because now we're, to your point, we're rereading this now. But years ago when I first read this, I didn't realize it was Nikki. Not until a couple panels in when I started to realize that you start to see like some signs that like, wait a minute, that lady's might be her mother. I thought that was really well played. It was a great way for her to say, of course she'd want to see, at this point in time, she reconnected with her friend. Of course she'd want to reconnect with her family and let them know they're okay. But the conversation takes a turn where the mom is naturally glad to see her daughter, but also scared, questioning what her daughter's actually doing because it's like, listen, you escaping is not a good thing. What kind of a life are you going to have with all of that? She's doing what a mom would do. And I like that her daughter, we see the turn, right?
Yeah.
During that conversation, Nikki becomes a lot more Tap Dance Killer. And just mainly as a defense mechanism, I think, because of what was going on in that conversation with Mom, because really deep down, Mom was right. Yeah. But Nikki was right to have to get away from it because she was going to be killed. But Mom's right as far as where do you go from here with all of that? And I really loved the reality of that story of her mom just being a mom. I thought it was very natural dialogue that made me again feel that this is a living, breathing, thriving world.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. And again, once brilliant usage of a couple pages to tell the story. You got a whole page where Nikki's in disguise talking to the next door neighbor. And she's been going up and down, up the entire street because Mom's house is being watched constantly.
Yeah.
So she's got to build up the cover. And I love that. I loved how they played that out. And again, loved how it was mom recognized her and everything you're saying. It was a brilliant usage of the character development. The Nikki was talking to mom and then flip the switch. TDK is back. And she's back in the driver's seat because I knew you can figure it out. And even, should have figured an old bird like you wouldn't get with the program. Right there. That's not Nikki talking. That's TDK. I love how they keep doing that with her. It's absolutely wonderful.
Carlotta has an interesting reaction because on the outside, she's expecting that like Nikki's being taken care of. We get the reality that Mario was hit like that. He apparently was knocked up into the ceiling and hung to death, which, I mean, normally that's not funny. It was in the case of this. But got to admit, Punchline's a pretty funny clown. But
hey, we're chuckling.
Yeah, her wanting their videotape released at this point, you're like, listen, my kid's gone. There's no reason for me to keep going with this. Let's get out and get going. I really liked where this storyline was going. We get to see right here 2 weeks ago and actually the fate of Drayton, where we get to see, and actually, here's the thing. I don't know. There's an experiment gone wrong in there with Drayton. I don't know that I want these people injecting me with anything in light of what that blue and purple-haired fiend was looking like out there. I don't know. I don't want you doing anything with me.
Yeah, it's funny. You sit back and you look and you're like, I love the argument that he made. Mm-hmm. He's like, look how strong we made her. And she's crushing steel with her bare hand. Mm-hmm, So that, once again, adds to the, you go to the desperation of where he's at. He's got nothing. Completely everything is taken from him. So not only does he cans for power, but, oh, wait, there's more. You want revenge. We'll give you that as well. I loved how it wasn't just one thing. It was compiling on it. Great storytelling with who and why he would choose to be Punchline. Now, personally, I would not do it. But because, like you, the creepy Lizzie sitting there kind of would make me go, I don't think so. And especially because they're putting you in a vat where they immediately put on masks.
Yes.
Like when people are putting masks around you and they're saying, oh, no, you get in it. I'd be like, no, thank you. I will leave now.
But he hit rock bottom. And I think that piece was really, really good for this. It also gave us a chance to kind of see him play through his storyline again and what happened to him, especially with the water and that's his guy. His guy turned on him and spiked his water. We get to see the players that later on, this was really good pacing, where we get to see the players that he would want revenge on, leading to that story later. Because, he failed the drug test and, really brought his marriage to an end and left him really with no life and no prospects afterwards. I thought it was just really a great introduction to a character.
Yeah, oh God, yeah. And it's funny. I love how it wasn't just the water spiked with a sedative so he'll lose the fight, but they also added insult to injury, putting the steroid in there so he'd fail the drug test.
Yep.
They completely just multiple level attack on this guy to destroy him. It was, again, it goes to further explaining why he would agree to get into the green goo with, and trust the creepy guy. So it's, again, the whole, he's got nothing to lose. When you've got nothing to lose, when you're 100% pure desperate, you'll do the stupid stuff. And this is the stupid stuff, in all honesty.
Well, they chose the nuclear option with him. He can't, how do you explain your way out of that?
Yeah.
It's almost too ridiculous. When you put it together to, say somebody set you up by doing all of this. And I thought that's the brilliant part about the way that it was handled. Carlotta and the use of the videotape and how that all played out. I really enjoy the storytelling style of Ted. Just because I feel like there's the way that panels are paced, the way that shifting between scenes happens. I feel like the stories have got a ton of content, but are always easy to follow. Because I think you could split some of this content up in ways that would be jarring. Like what happened with her here? He does a really good job of giving you a lot of information around characters in segments where it almost feels like in television, where you shift between certain scenes and you've gotten enough screen time with a character that you can now afford to step away with them and go look at somebody else because you're foundationally where you need to be. Really good at doing that with this.
There's a balance you have to have with that, because if you're jumping too much, it gets too choppy. If you spend too long in one story, then you jump back to the other one, you're like, wait, what happened there? He's doing a brilliant balance on just enough here, go to here, just enough here, go to here, just enough, let's go back here, let's go here, let's jump around, let's show it, doing a great balancing act, because you think back to the scene of Carlotta in prison where she says, hey, release the videotape. Then we got a couple other stuff. Now we see what that videotape is. And then we go back after this, we go back to Nikki. Then we go back to the crew. It's a great, again, it's a nice dance between each one, giving enough time to tell part of the story, but not making it so heavy that, you're left going, what was that again? Why did we see that? The entire time, it's always advancing the story.
The art team is something that it stood out in Apama, and there's a different art team in this book, and yet it feels like it's all part of the Hero Tomorrow universe, which really works well. Location building is just as important as character building, and action has got to be sharp and fluid. And I feel like the art team in this book just really gets all of that, because because of the fact that I'm a Clevelander, I like to see, thematically the feel like we're in Cleveland area or Cleveland suburbs. And I think that's really captured well in all of this. But the ability to develop a lot of emotion in characters is also something that's pretty key. Because Nikki is actually a very fully realized character, especially with the fact that she has a acting background, right? So there's lots of times where she's required to be very animated in her movements, very animated in her facial expressions, without being too over the top. You've got to believe that she is a real person instead of a parody of some other person, if that makes sense. And I really feel like I get her and her friend in their interaction, because we got the next page where they're dealing with some groceries, some typical day-to-day stuff with her. Those scenes are important to me because a day in the life of Nikki is a lot more of how I question being able to call her a villain, only because of the fact that I like her. I do actually like her as a character. I liked her in Apama a great deal, but I think we're seeing a different person now than we saw in Apama when we saw her dating Ilya before everything broke down on her. We're seeing now the person who's gotten comfortable or more comfortable in being who she is. That time passage has caused some appropriate evolution with the character, and I'm really enjoying seeing that in this.
Oh, God, yeah. And again, we got to like her as a person. We got to like her in and out of the costume. In the costume, you appreciate just the fluid, the motion, just the action. Out of the costume, you see her as a person. It's doing a great balance on that. And again, it always makes you question, when is it Nikki? When is it Killer? Which personality is in the forefront? And the next couple page sequence when they're going back and they're getting, they're doing, hey, it's time for some vengeance for, Punchline. A lot of people wronged him. Those people are now going to get hurt really bad. They're going to be dead. And I love just one at another. Bam, this guy did this. The bookie did this. The drugstore guy did this.
Wait.
The bartender did this.
He hugged the bookie to death.
Yes.
He broke him with a hug.
Yeah.
Take that, Bane. I really do like seeing how he and Nikki work together. In this, they really do feel like the perfect team, right? You and I are both wrestling fans, and I feel like the best tag teams have the big, strong guy with, especially with the athletic talent, to be able to do more than just be big. And then you've got the speedier person that can do the more interesting, intriguing, dynamic moves. The two of them play out like that in the best possible way. Like, I'm looking at her on top of that bar where she's kicking the bartender, and we've got Punchline, kind of making his way through the whole crew, trying to get at the guy who actually set him up with all of this. And I really loved how that whole thing played out. What happened with the car was fantastic, because now you've got the guy that drugged him, and he's having this confrontation where we see that Punchline's still there, as far as Drayton is still there. Because he's talking to Drayton about, hey, remember everything we did as a kid? Remember the machine job? Remember this? Remember that? Remember the Transformers we put together? And, the night we hooked up with the girls from Garfield, which I work in Garfield now, so it's kind of cool. You remember that stuff, don't you, Dre? And he's like, yeah, I remember. And it meant a lot more to me than it ever did to you. That was a great ending to this issue. I just thought that played out extremely well.
Oh God, yeah. And again, final page. That look is absolutely brilliant because again, like you said, we really do get confirmation that Drayton's in there. Yes. This is how we kind of had those. Is Nikki there? Is Tap Dance Killer? We're seeing Drayton still there. He 100% is still him, but it's again. He's out for blood. Yep. He was out taking out the people who did him wrong, who destroyed his life. These were his longtime friends. This guy, he's talking about, they've known each other since the 4th grade. They've been buddies. He's the guy who's watched his back. And you go back a couple pages and you see when Drayton was really down and out, and the guy just basically blew him off, said, sorry, buddy. That's the way it is, and takes off and leaves him. I love the fact that, you now see Drayton get his payback. He gets his vengeance for everything that happened to him. It's one of those weird things where you're rooting for the villain throughout this. And I love how, this book makes me root for the villain.
It was a great action revenge movie ending. Yeah. Where he's kind of walking off in the sunset. It reminded me of some of the Clint Eastwood Westerns. Where, because Clint in those movies, some of them, you kind of question, I don't know, is he a hero? What is he? It's kind of, because it's not always very, very clear what he is in those movies either. And I really liked that it had that kind of feel. Like, I clearly feel these are all bad guys. But where you skirt the line is they weren't before, though. None of them were. So you've got these, the people in Sir Terror's gang, at least the initial crew that we got to see in Apama and, of course, Drayton, they are all people that have been wronged in some way that led them down the path that they're at, which they're tragic stories. They've become clearly villains, but it's hard not to remember who they were. So when you see glimpses of them, I think that's where it's kind of like, but yeah, he's still that guy, though. And I really enjoyed that about it. It was a good choice. So the cover for issue 3 is great. I just love seeing the characters dancing on it. It's really something that has been a strength of this series is, I've mentioned it before, the cover bouquets and things like that. The main cover, the one that's meant for the book, or at least the initial cover that was meant for the book, always has just something about it that is a draw into it. And to see these characters in like a classic cover like pose, seeing them all together at this point, it makes me realize how much I'm enjoying the journey. Because really, if you've been starting with these characters since Apama, this is like our 5th issue with these characters. If you jump off of the 2 issues of Apama and then go in, in this issue, that would technically be our 5th issue with them. It's great to see them kind of play out. It's a very twisted cover because they're dancing on the corpses, and it's a very Tap Dance Killer cover.
We know that Ted has a love of theater, of musical theater, and all of that. It's common. It's known. He and his brother did the original Vaudevillian story, but when I saw this, the first thought that popped in my head was, we're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz, and kill him.
Yes, it very much has that vibe. Again, we're continuing with this Meet the Cast portion of there, which I think is really, really great. I'm glad we get to see your dad at this, because I was thinking to myself, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, we did only see Mom the first time around. Yeah. So that initial piece of seeing a mother who's worried about her daughter and the dad kind of talking through that piece before we jump into seeing Nikki in Slavic Village, where she's trying to, and I love this, now we're seeing more what the aliases are for. They give her characters to play so she can utilize it to do the things that she needs to do when she's not interacting with the world as the tap dance killer, when she can't be Nikki. That part is really, really great here. Because I liked how the way the splash page was taken care of, where we get to see her in the background having conversations, coming in the foreground having the same conversations, trying to get the same information out, again, trying to get more information, I should say, out of the people that she's interviewing. I really liked how this all played out and what really the aliases were for.
Oh, God, yeah. And again, completely gets her victim here unaware. She's playing the scatterbrain junkie kind of, she's playing the junkie. No one thinks a junkie's dangerous. They don't think that's a tap dance killer. They don't think that's anything. This is just some scatterbrain junkie looking, for Ash to get a fix. I loved how she played this. I love, again, how she kept using the guy and completely got all the information she needed, got exactly where she needs to be, completely just played this guy. Once again, showing, the acting side of Nikki, showing just, again, the strategery of the tap dance killer. I love this stuff, man.
One of the things that was great, it was partially getting her away from him, because he's like, I've had about enough at this point in time. And the other, because the problem is, if he pushes her away and she actually is as connected as she says she is, now you've got a problem. If he pushes her away and there could be some money involved, that's another problem. So I like that he's kind of like, all right, let me get rid of her, get her over there, let them vet her out. So since all the reasons he sent Desi over there, I thought was really great. Carlotta kind of talking through her own origin story was really great. I really love that in this world, we seem to take time in each issue to give characters a origin. Carlotta, at this point, I was already highly invested in because I wanted to see, her revenge story kind of play out with Nikki, which is, the inevitable battle between the two of them is where this is going. But being able to see how she got where she was at and what happened with her husband and how that led to her furthering who she was going to become later on and how she was willing to give her life up for the sense of pushing her kid further, hoping that her kid would kind of take that and go with it. Instead, he got himself right back into the same problem that ended up killing him. Mm-hmm. That part was awesome. The bottle sequence with her was great.
Oh, dude, come on. That was absolutely wonderful. Again, the fact that it's a 1961 Chateau Latour, it's been in the family for over 3 decades, valued at over $13,000, and she just smashes it and is getting ready to jam the broken shard glasses in their face. Oh, man, that was awesome. I love this. Was a great, again, it shows just that brilliant usage of, letting us know who she is, what she's about, and then taking it up, ramping up a notch so why is this female so feared by all the guys around her? Well, she's a little bit on the psycho side. She's a little bit hardcore. She has no problems killing people at all. So once again, strength and fear are what she's running her crew with. Absolutely brilliant.
Nikki knew she was being watched, right, when she was in the store.
Yeah.
That's why the whole, stealing the lightsabers thing was part of a character build, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's little things you do, like when you're undercover, when you're playing a junkie, you got to do, it's the junkie sway kind of thing, where if you've ever seen someone who's really strung out, they kind of got this weird sway going back and forth where you think maybe they're going to fall over, but they never completely fall over, and little stuff like the shoplifting things, little things like that sell on the person being who they are. And again, you think about it like, yeah, she's got cash, she's a tweaker. Wait, did she just steal lifesavers? Oh, yeah, she's a tweaker. Because they're going to make sure this isn't a cop. They're not thinking, tap dance killer. They're thinking this may be a cop. Well, they now have proof. They're like, nah, there's no way she's a cop. Okay, yeah, sell her, hook her up.
And add $2 for the lifesavers.
Yeah.
That was a great bit. What's going on with Nikki, especially with the fact that now they're getting close to where she's actually hiding out. we've got a friend who's actually revealing herself. Contact me? Oh, no. I couldn't do something like that for her. Like what? Oh, keep her hiding or something like that, or give her money. She's saying, I'm like sitting here, you're saying one too many things. The tap dance away to would you like a glass of lemonade was good, but I think at that point in time, she'd already sunk too far. Here's the problem. She's revealed herself in the fact that she won't let him have a look around after that. Yeah. Once you start asking for the subpoena after the fact that you said one thing's too many, it's Nikki's time with her is coming to a close.
Yes. And that cop is walking away saying, I think we may need to, get a warrant for this place, and looking at how do we get a warrant to search this place. He doesn't have enough right now, but this is going to be one of the things that gets reported to the detective who's in charge, to the marshals in charge of this. This is something that's going to get reported to them just because that's how the fugitive manhunts work. The police officers are doing a lot of the groundwork, and they're reporting to the marshals who are handling the investigation. Sometimes it may be a detective; it's a really high profile, but I'm sitting there going, yeah, and watching just him. I'm assuming he's completely seeing what we're seeing as well, because it's little subtle stuff like this that people do give away. In reality, people who are hiding, because there's a lot of people out there who are hiding fugitives, and I've actually worked with the fugitive task force before through my job, which was kind of fun. This kind of stuff where people are just giving a little bit too much information away. Just that little extra bit. It's giving you, they're not saying, oh yeah, they're hiding right behind me. But they're giving you enough to know, okay, this is not a dead end. This is something we have to pursue.
I like the way that you introduced your fugitive task force, because it made it sound like you're helping fugitives. Yeah, I know a lot of people that are harboring fugitives and things like that, and part of our fugitive task force is. You did. I mean, you totally went where I thought it was going to go, but I thought it chuckled at first the way that it sounded. Lizzie was great in the sequence where we get to see a little bit more of the creep factor of what Fletcher's doing, where these experiments have gone wrong. If I'm Punchline, I'd be like, I'm one of the more normal ones. Fletcher, though, having kind of a blatant relationship, right, of some sort with her. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what kind of. I think I don't know. It's again with Fletcher. He is such a weirdo. You don't know how much is just to control her, how much he actually feels for her. I don't know.
Sir Terror is interesting here because literally because of the situation with Lizzie, his life flashes before his eyes. Right?
Yeah,
he's more lucid after this. Right?
Yes. Here's one of the things. And this was the sequence where it started to be thinking, how we're questioning whether Nikki or Tap Dance Killer. You need something jarring to bring you back. And that's one of the things that started bringing Nikki back. This is the beginning of the thing that's bringing back Vincent Reed.
Yeah.
And you see his life flash before his eyes. You see who he is before he becomes, Sir Terror. And I like that.
I love this next page with Nikki, her alter ego. And, alter egos, I should say. Yeah. I loved the art styling of this, where we got to see the three panels, or the flowing panels on the one side and the flowing panels on the other, of her in both of her acting roles. I really just thought that was really sharply put together. I think one of the things I love about comics is when artistic talent have fun with how you do storytelling. And this page just really worked for me.
Yeah, this again, they've done a brilliant job with story and art working together to tell the story.
Yes.
And again, we talked earlier about just the fluidity of the motion, of the combat, of the beauty of the drama. Well, right here, this is a pure, just kind of like you've got Nikki right in the center page, half and half with her disguise, and then Tap Dance Killer on the other side. And then you're seeing the characters interact with the same people in different ways, and just further on in the story. I love this page. This is an absolutely wonderful, brilliant page.
As the story continues on, we get to see Nikki back up with Uzi and Punchline is they're preparing for the next piece of the caper that's going on, the next battle. It's interesting to see them with these two because we get to see Lizzie and sometimes as people that aren't as competent or aren't as mentally sound.
Yeah.
With these guys, Uzi's got his share of issues and all that, but these are actually characters who, like, if I'm going into a battle, I'm not against Uzi and Punchline being there.
Actually, these are two pretty good ones to have in your back.
Yeah.
Because, again, you've got the massive power with Punchline, and we know he's not completely gone. Uzi's a little bit on the goofy side, but, again, he's their weaponsmith. He is a weaponsmith. They've shown that he's not an idiot. He's completely in the clown character, but there's still usage of that, and I think he's not going to abandon you and just leave you to die. I think he's a good solid person to have on your back.
The freight elevator bit was great. And it's something that I really do like about the action in this is the use of environment, right? So we've seen a lot of different environments being used. The way that freight elevator opened with the Punchline's two gloved hands kind of lifting up the top and the bottom, Tap Dance Killer's entryway. I loved the shadows of her where she'd been before as she's moving through the room. I just thought this is a beautiful, beautiful book. And the environmental choices of this was something where I feel that keeps the story moving and you don't feel like you're rehashing the same fights that you've seen before. It added really, really cool sequences in all of this.
Yeah, and the lead up to it where you start hearing the tap, 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 tap. You hear Nikki tap dancing before the elevator finally opens up and Punchline comes out, and then she adds to the routine. Again, we talked earlier about these two as a tag team. It's absolutely wonderful. Move, counter move off of each other. And again, Nikki's being Nikki, where she's singing, "It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing." I'm loving that she's going on as she's singing, dancing, and killing them at the same time.
The whole reality is they've been thinking that they've got all this time to get everything done before the bomb goes off, right?
Yeah.
Well, when Uzi encounters the guy who had originally helped set up the bomb, he's like, no, we only got 60 seconds left. 60 seconds? Do you have the detonator? No, it was never changed for daylight savings. Which is such a thing. I love that he kills him off of that. And Uzi's part of the team. This is where I'm saying these guys are competent. Uzi's like, no, listen, I need to get you people out of there now. Punch is out. Nikki, get out of there now. The ending of this was so great because she bursts into this room. There is a baby and a mother who's, strung out, sitting on the chair. She's going to have a hard choice to make there. I love that this is the cliffhanger because I'm guessing Nikki's still in there, right? Yeah. So this is the part where it's going to get a whole bunch of gray area. What a great ending to the issue.
Yeah, who wins out in this one, Nikki or Tap Dance Killer?
Yeah.
Because TDK is just going to keep running, jump out the window, and be safe.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki is going to want to save them.
Yeah.
And there's no way she can save both of them. Or maybe she can. Again, it's one of the... This is where I want to see where this plays out. I love this one again. This was a brilliant ending for this issue. It makes you immediately go, okay, what happens now? I got to know.
Yep.
I got to know, man.
It seems to run on some form of electricity.
I would like to remind everyone that Skype is wrapping up soon, so we are going to be moving over to a new platform for that. If you want to contact the show right now, the show email address, ragingbullets@gmail.com, still works fine. You can send us audio comments that way. You can send us emails that way. We have a show Facebook group community that is absolutely fantastic. We post all of our episodes there, and would like to get your information that way as well. We'll be doing something for voicemails. I just haven't worked that out yet. We're kind of working out what our new platform's going to look like as far as for doing recordings behind the scenes. We've been using Skype for years to record the podcast, so we used our voicemail line through that. With that being deprecated, we're trying to figure out what we're going to be doing next for contact with us. But please know that those normal channels still exist other than our voicemail line, which is going to be going bye-bye with Skype. So we will come up with something else for you to be able to join us that way. I also remind everyone that in our show notes, every episode, there is a link to a form It's a Google form that if you want to give us suggestions on upcoming show episode topics, feel free to let us know what you'd like to see from us in the future. We've got a lot of topics in mind going forward, and we keep adding more constantly because sometimes there's timely things that come up, or something maybe we happen to read that like, geez, I'd be really interested in talking about that on the show, that tend to bump something else a little bit further down the road. But we would love to hear from you. A lot of our recent episodes have actually been driven by listener requests, so please know we do listen to you, and it factors into a lot of our decision-making process as we go forward. RagingBullets.com is our show website where you can find out about news about new releases and any upcoming schedule changes and things like that. That feeds into our Facebook page. That also feeds into X/Twitter. The About Us section of our show website is where you can connect with us on gaming platforms and our own personal social media. Besides that, you can check me out bi-weekly on Is It Jaws, which is a film review podcast. Paul Spataro was kind enough to have me jump on board as a co-host of that one. And we review movies on Jaws 1 through 4 movie scale with a lot of special guests. So please consider joining us over there. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
We have the new giant size X-Men #1, 36% off, only $3.19. So thank you, DCBS. Plus, there's a lot of really cool variant covers also with some discounts from DCBS. So thank you.
Over at InStockTrades.com, they have the Berserk graphic novel, volume 42. $14.99 regularly, 46% off, only $8.09. Dark Knights of Steel, all winter hardcover, $29.99 regularly, 50% off, only $14.99. DC Finest Team-Ups, Chase to the End of Time, $39.99 regularly, 55% off, only $17.99. Doom Treasury Edition trade paperback, $29.99 regularly, 46% off, only $16.19. And the Phoenix trade paperback, volume 1, Orbital Resonance, $17.99 regularly, 46% off, only $9.71. I want to thank DCB Service at InStockTrades.com for putting together amazing discounts and for continuing to support our show and many other great podcasts that are out there. Our next episode, Jim and I are going to be back, and we're going to wrap up this look at Tap Dance Killer with issues 4 and 5. We will see you then.
John and Jim are back again, talking comic books with all their friends. They'll spoil a story and break it down. These two guys talking comics are the best around. Raging Bullets, the podcast show. Raging Bullets, the podcast show.